How has the journey been? How has your life been?
Personally believe there's a divine purpose. We all are here, and ultimately, if you don't have a worldview, you're just whiling away your time. Like I said, life is a roller coaster ride. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So try to be as honest. Sometimes, like you say, brutally honest. Mindset is very important. Critical thinking is very important. Every failure is a learning experience. I mean, I remember I had this whole mind map of what are the problems here and what is required here. Personal aspirations, the collective
Collective
approach,
wisdom, yeah.
having fun in life, being happy, doing things that really are meaningful to you.
वेलकम टू द वैल्यू ऑफ विजडम पॉडकास्ट। आज हमारे साथ हैं a fourth generation entrepreneur from Kashmir. He co-founded Kashmir Box, Studio Collab, Melting Pots, and he's part of the Launchpad Kashmir initiative. And I am so glad and fortunate to be having this conversation with him, Ishfaq Mir.
Thank you. Thank you, Farad.
So let's kind of ease off a little.
Ease?
Yeah,
I'm easy.
let's be
I'm at ease.
let's be a little more easy, and let's sip kahwa while you talk about your journey, starting from the childhood. If you can sum it up, childhood se abhi tak kya hua? How has the journey been? How has your life been?
I think it's been exciting. Obviously, like anybody, like everybody, there have been ups and downs. Um the childhood was beautiful. This I'm a product of mid 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So from early 80s, I recall, and we had a good run till the conflict arose in the
Mm-hmm.
valley. That was somewhere in 88, 89.
Uh-huh.
But I recall the 80s very well, and it was tranquil. In the sense, today it seems like a dream, like a period movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my circumstances were also uh, in a way blessed,
Mm-hmm.
like the family I come from, um, those blessings of being in the family, what they did, and what I witnessed during that time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it was beautiful.
Okay.
And then late 80s, early 90s uh, was a very difficult period
Mm-hmm.
for everybody I know.
True.
I lost a lot of friends. They either left this world or they left the state, or even
Mm-hmm.
I migrated.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and in nutshell, without being specific, it
Mm-hmm.
has been quite meaningful that has shaped who I am today.
Uh-huh.
My childhood, the legacy that I carry forward,
Uh-huh.
and the challenges itself. Like my entrepreneurial career started with a crash.
Okay.
In the sense, early 90s when I was still finishing school,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I had to make a decision. Like it was a very difficult period for the family itself.
Mm-hmm.
We were a business family, and my participation was required
Uh-huh.
in resolving the issues that we were facing at that time. And
Uh-huh.
I took a plunge into something that I didn't really know how to swim, although I had my family to assist me, but my ideas were kind of radical at that time.
Uh-huh.
They still are.
By the way, they still are. I mean, a lot of people I talk to about you, they say, okay, he's ahead of his time, and this is what has come quite often. And he is
Mhm.
someone who thinks very differently, and he is someone who does not have a very conventional viewpoint of looking at the world.
You see, like I said, that's something that shaped me. I mean,
Mhm.
one is the circumstances. Also, uh, my earlier, like in early days,
Mhm.
there are people who shaped my thinking as well.
Okay.
Primarily, my own grandfather,
Uh huh.
who was a very renowned businessman,
Uh huh.
but he was quite humble, and everybody spoke about his humility and
Uh
his large-heartedness and
huh.
his contribution to the society. So in a way that was the inspiration,
Uh huh.
from the legacy that I carried
Right.
forward.
Right.
And then from in the international sphere there were authors that like for me, I don't know if you recall, in those days I remember a book, the road less traveled.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he talks about delay of gratification.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
eat the cake first and then the frosting. So
Okay.
there was no
Mhm.
indulging in the wants.
Right.
Focus on the needs.
Right.
Focus on doing things. So
Mhm.
those were earlier inspirations that
Mhm.
kind of uh, helped me in critical thinking, because
Right.
now I had to critically think
Right.
and differentiate between need and want.
Uh-huh.
And also, not saying that I did not explore wants, I did.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But largely, it had an impact on me and helped me in critical thinking also. And when you say that I live in the future, this
Mhm.
is been I can say a complaint also
Uh-huh.
from a lot of my friends, family, uh, but that has been out of habit. That has been uh, my calling also in a way.
Right.
I mean, earlier in, I think it was mid 2000s,
Uh-huh.
I took a tag and I thought I would work on being a futurist.
Okay.
Because I was in that space, I was in the
Uh-huh.
technology space, and I wanted to not as a soothsayer,
Uh-huh.
not as a soothsayer, but only to see how
Mhm.
technology will shape uh, the future.
Mhm.
So, not that it did not last, it was a
Mhm.
transitory phase. But now I'm really trying hard to live in the present.
It's been a long road, I guess. But I want to understand this. How has your schooling and college been? And do you think it has shaped you into who you are right now, or it has not?
I was a very confident child,
Mm-hmm.
borderline overconfident.
Okay.
So back in the day, there was nothing that I thought was impossible.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that was a blessing
Mm-hmm.
in a way, but that also was a deterrent because I did not go for regular sports. I mean,
Okay.
everything was offbeat, and even
Uh-huh.
today is offbeat in a way or two. Like while everybody played cricket, I wanted to do athletics.
Okay.
Yeah, uh, I did not think much of college.
Uh-huh.
Um, Primarily because of the reasons I told you. It was
Right.
early days of the conflict in Kashmir,
Uh-huh.
and family had it was a crisis
Right.
at home,
Mm-hmm.
business crisis at home, and I indulged in that, and so I don't have much experience of college.
But then, I'm kind of tempted to believe because of how colleges are structured, universities are structured. There is this structured thought that is put into the students. They're taught to think in a certain way, and many a times the limits of the teachers become the limits of the students. So, do you think when you look back, it has actually been your advantage of sorts because of how you think, because of being that outlier that
I
you
agree
are?
with you. I agree with you. There were no constraints. There
Hmm.
was no framework I had to operate
Right.
in.
Hmm.
Uh, so although I did extensive research on whatever
Hmm.
I was doing at that time,
Hmm.
so it was in a way multidisciplinary.
Right.
So it was not just business; it
Hmm.
was arts. It
Hmm.
was there were a lot of elements at play,
True.
and without the formal structure from any institute,
Hmm.
uh, I went ahead and explored it my way.
True.
Uh, so so it did. You're right in a way that that shaped my thinking differently.
Hmm. And then you went to US.
Yeah, it was an accident. I went to US. Yes, that was. I think it was '97.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, why did you go there, and what did you do there, and how was your life there, and yeah, something from that.
Oh, really? I think I went to New York,
Hmm.
and it has really helped largely in because those were my early days.
Hmm.
I was 23,
Okay.
22,
Hmm.
23, and I landed in New York. Only because a friend of mine insisted I should.
Hmm.
He had a companion ticket. I just had to pay taxes,
Okay.
and those were hard days in the
Uh huh.
sense like I
Fair
had
enough.
rolled out a business
Okay.
pan India,
Hmm.
and now during those days I was unrolling it because I did not like the ecosystem in the
Hmm.
sense the value system in that business,
Hmm.
which again is connected to the crisis that I was talking about earlier, and
Okay.
we had to expand differently to
Mm-hmm.
support the business. To support the artisan community,
Mm-hmm.
the employees
Who were
at that
part of the
time
whole
who were part of
ecosystem?
the
Yeah.
whole group.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up a business, but also largely there were conflicts within the family, business
Mm-hmm.
conflicts within the family. And then during that period, it was quite stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And so a friend said, "Let's go to New York
Mm-hmm.
for a week. It'll help
Okay.
you reboot and
Mm-hmm.
maybe think differently and come
Mm-hmm.
back, and uh, it should help." So we
Mm-hmm.
went to New York thinking we'll go for a week,
Okay.
but Providence works differently. That's one learning I've had.
Yeah.
And so life has been a roller coaster ride. The Within that 1 week, life just completely changed. It was an opportunity that just came. In the first week in New York, I met some very interesting people who had great influence
Mm-hmm.
uh, on how I saw the world.
Okay.
My first cultural shock was how lovely these people are, how
Okay.
well
Uh-huh.
they take care of their pets,
Mm-hmm.
or how they keep their word. And
Uh-huh.
and I was unrolling, and I was unplugging from an ecosystem at that time
Mm-hmm.
where we had questionable principles, value system. Uh, so largely, and then I ended up spending a lot of time in New York. Earlier on, I used to go
Mm-hmm.
there maybe every week, sometimes twice a week,
Uh-huh.
because I was building a business, but I was largely living in
Okay.
India. But then I had an accident. I had an accident. I cut my hand. I had to go through a surgery,
Oh.
and then I had to go through therapy.
Uh-huh.
So it was a daily therapy. So I ended up staying there.
Okay. And would you say staying in New York shaped who you are right now
It's
in a
it
big
it, it
way?
had. I mean, I won't say that. Uh, it did not contribute. It did
Okay.
definitely contribute.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it I can even point the ways, like when I went there, even the way I walked or the stress that was on
Uh-huh.
my mindset.
Uh-huh.
It helped me because it's a melting pot out there in New
Right.
York. It's many cultures, and it is vivid there. How people contribute.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot of struggle, a lot of independent mindsets.
Right.
So it did definitely aid me in shaping a part
Uh-huh.
of who I am.
Uh-huh.
Definitely.
And I also want to understand, the 20-year-old you, now that if you look back and you have to give an advice to a 20-year-old, what are some of the main, the key advices that you would give them, given that you have lived a life, you'll be turning 50 next year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah. So are there any
5 centuries on
specific?
the planet. Yeah,
Wow.
not centuries. Sorry, five
Decades. Yeah.
decades on the
Yeah.
planet. But it
So
looks like 5 centuries if you ask me.
but in a good way or a bad
In a
way?
good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
So okay, so first let's talk about the advice that you would give to your younger self. So because our audience is, keeping in view our audience, and how they would want to view the world from somebody who's,
Yeah, it might
senior
sound
to them.
philosophical, but obviously I meet a lot of young people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and depends where they're from. If you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about from our community, like from Kashmir specifically, my advice would be slightly different
Mm-hmm.
than if I'm talking to someone, and there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um if I'm meeting someone from the mainland or from other parts of the world,
Uh-huh.
uh, the advice when you say it's a capsule you give for of you from your experience for their well-being.
Right.
That's the objective.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the youngster where they
True.
are in life,
True.
how they've shaped up. Here we see a lot of a lot of mindset issues,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because of the conditions that have shaped them who they become. In
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just 5 years was like a jail term, right?
Right.
There was COVID
Mm-hmm.
period before that, and
True.
even year after, like the last 10 years, if you
Mm-hmm.
see, it's just last few years that things have been kind of stable. But before that, so that baggage they carry.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so for someone like that who has seen that um, who has struggled with the circumstances where they find themselves, I think they need to. They've already done a lot of introspection,
Okay.
and sometimes the introspection leads them astray also,
Uh-huh.
because now it's like eat the frosting first, not the cake. Let's
Right. Right. Uh-huh.
let's have a smoke, or let's inject some drugs and just
Hmm.
recreation. It could be that also.
Hmm.
So but life is long, and so the I personally believe there's a divine purpose. We all are here,
Hmm.
um, and that helps me shape up my worldview.
Hmm.
And ultimately, if you don't have a worldview, you're just whiling away your time. So you
Right.
have to pick a worldview.
Hmm.
So you can test different lenses,
Hmm.
how you see the world. You can question. You have to go through critical thinking. But ultimately, you have to find comfort in a worldview, and hopefully, be on the side of good
Hmm.
and live like that.
Right.
So it is contextual here.
Ishmael, given the legacy you had, and then you go to New York, and then you decide to come back and work in Kashmir and be in Kashmir. और ये तब हो रहा है जब Kashmir is going through a lot of very difficult phase. So why did you come back? You could have decided to stay over and you could have decided to have a completely different life for yourself.
True. Like I said, life is a roller coaster ride. It's not everything, nothing goes as planned.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There are interventions, right? I
Right.
mean, something or the other, there's a twist here, there's a twist there.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in New York and things were looking up, and at a very young age, I was able to do well,
Mm-hmm.
live an aspirational life, and
Uh-huh.
was in contrast to the stress that I was feeling here, and
Okay.
things were shaping up, opening
Mm.
up. But life had other plans,
Right.
and there was an accident in the family
Mm.
that compelled me to stay with the family,
Okay.
and nothing else mattered.
Uh-huh.
And before you knew it, I stayed back
Uh-huh.
for the family,
Okay.
and for myself, for my own, because I was also it was a very uh, it was a sad moment in my life,
Uh-huh.
and I also needed
Some solace.
not just solace, healing.
Uh-huh.
I also needed to heal.
So you came here because of your family and
No, we
because you
had an
wanted to
accident.
heal.
We had an accident in the family, and it was a very sad moment.
Mhm.
One of the dark moments in my life,
Uh-huh.
where I lost a sibling, and we had to. I spent time. I wanted to heal. My family, my immediate family, had to heal,
Uh-huh.
and nothing else mattered at that time.
Okay.
So once I was here, and going back did not seem important,
Uh-huh.
or that there was a change. There was, like I said, the providence had other plans.
Right.
Allah had other
Right.
plans.
And how spiritual are you?
What does that even mean?
You tell me. So, because you bring in fate a lot, you bring in providence a lot, you bring in Allah a lot. So,
Yeah.
does that mean you are a spiritual person?
Well, we aren't we all? I mean, I like I said, it all depends the lenses that you wear. So the lenses that I primarily wear, my worldview is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, not even a question for me.
Okay.
So there is a spirit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and divinity is real for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's my guiding force.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So we might not scratch it much,
We
because.
could. I'm not saying
Mhm.
but there's a different. It's a topic that we have to understand the operating platform for it,
Mhm.
because I don't want to confuse your audience. For
Yeah.
instance, you want to speak to the youth,
Mhm.
and we will go offbeat. I
Yeah.
feel it is a very important ingredient, but maybe it needs a more thorough conversation of
Mhm.
concepts.
Mhm.
Uh, And also, like I said, I keep saying that uh, we see, the way we see the world,
Mm-hmm.
our worldview,
Mm-hmm.
the interpretations are different for different people,
Right.
right? So I see it in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it won't resonate with someone,
Mm-hmm.
and he won't even understand, and you will lose the reason you're having this blog in the
Right,
first place.
right, right. I want to understand one thing. You see, in the personal growth literature, or in this whole in the personal growth space, we often talk about the life unlived, the regret of the life unlived. So, do you think you have lived your life to the fullest so far? And are there any regrets that sometimes keep you awake? So, or anything of that sort?
I don't have regrets.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I operate from life force. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I try to be as honest, sometimes, like you say, brutally honest. I try to
Mm-hmm.
be brutally honest with myself first,
Mm-hmm.
critically analyze. Generally speaking, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I've made mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
but technically, I don't have, even if there was a mistake in the past that I've done or I acknowledge, um, I feel there was a purpose for it. Like,
Okay.
I've not gone heinous, I've not gone uh, in a direction that I would regret.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely try not to hurt someone
Mm-hmm.
in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not saying I haven't hurt. I
Mm-hmm.
could, maybe consciously, maybe
Mm-hmm.
sometimes unconsciously.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I'm only human,
True.
like we all are. So uh, there are no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And in the divine plan, I think I try to contribute. There's a
Mm-hmm.
life force that I feel that it goes through me,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to align myself. Mindset is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Critical thinking is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Having friends or associates
Uh-huh.
who understand you or who converse with you,
Right.
who help you shape your worldview is
Right.
very important.
Right.
And then you end up taking decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there have been cases where things have not uh, where situations have not unrolled the way you imagine, and
Mm-hmm.
it is very common.
Mm-hmm.
And you aspire a certain way, it comes out in
True.
a
It
different
doesn't
way.
happen. True.
And but I've also felt, like they say, a blessing in disguise.
Uh-huh.
I have experienced that not once, not twice, many a times in
Right.
my life, where I regretted, oh, it did not come out the way I wanted,
Uh-huh.
and then there was a blessing in disguise, somehow or the other,
Yeah.
hidden. So
Right.
it's a mysterious life. Is mysterious. It
Mm-hmm.
works in mysterious ways.
Uh-huh.
There are no direct answers. It's if you experience, like I was saying, the young guys, they're just starting off. I'm sure they've had some experiences uh, which don't play out the way they
Right.
work out, but faith does help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
um, Again, we're going in that
Yeah, let's
direction.
go in that in any
Yeah.
direction you wanted to do. मैं एक चीज और समझना चाहता हूँ. How importance do you give to failures in life? I mean, because a lot of us we fail and sometimes we lose that whole motivation to get
Oh,
up
it's
and
it's
yeah.
the end of life. If you fail, you end. It's the end of life. You should not fail.
Uh-huh.
Of course, every failure is a learning experience. I mean,
Mhm.
it's very
It's a
common.
no-brainer. Yeah.
But the
Uh-huh.
failure is when you lose your breath. The end. That's
Ah.
life's failure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end.
Mm-hmm.
But while you keep breathing,
Mm-hmm.
you're growing, you're learning.
Right.
And if you are fortunate enough to reach a level in your life, in the sense, uh, whether it's age, position,
Mm-hmm.
of power, or whatever it is, then you need to see how you contribute, how you give back,
Uh-huh.
right? That's very important. I use a very I use this analogy a lot, that
Mhm.
every blade of grass makes a lawn, right? For instance,
So true. So true.
or every drop of water makes a water body, whether it's
True.
an
True.
ocean or
True.
a river.
Mhm.
But in that context, sometimes we give ourselves too much importance. Like,
Mhm.
whole world revolves
Right.
around you.
Right.
You want to be the center of attraction,
Mhm.
and then imagine a superior being looking at the lawn. How important is that one blade of grass,
Right.
you know, or that
It's
one drop
not.
of water, whether it's muddy or whether it's
Mhm.
clear?
Mhm.
Ultimately, it's a part of the whole water body,
Right.
right? So, in that context, that is the macro understanding of how we should see.
Mhm.
But there is also one fact: the spiritual being and the lenses that I wear. We really have a very important play.
Right.
We have a very important play. There are both elements at play.
Mhm.
There is a divine plan, and then
Mhm.
there is your will. I mean, this
Mhm.
is a age-old,
Debate. So we
debate
could discuss about it.
that I have
But
tried to resolve.
I'm reminded of this, this thought I shared with one of my friends, and he talked about it. Be the whole universe, and we are not even infinitesimally small. We are so small that we do not have an existence in the macro picture of the universe. But then, our consciousness is required to basically acknowledge the whole universe. So somehow it gives us a lot of importance. The fact that we are alive is acknowledging that the whole universe is there, and the whole grand plan of the divine force is there. So just wanted to add it to what you said. Somehow, even if we are a single blade of grass, so the fact that we are there and we are uh, f- witnessing whatever is happening and experiencing it gives us a lot of importance, because the whole universe needs us to acknowledge itself. Have you ever thought of it life? Have you ever thought of life in that way?
Obviously, it's an evolving thought,
Yeah.
and a lot of discussions that I've had, whether internally, whether with
Uh-huh.
people who are connected at this level, we've definitely discussed many aspects of this,
Uh-huh.
and the blade of grass and the lawn theory.
Yeah.
I'll take that forward. While you were talking, and you said you were talking about your consciousness, like
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. So, what about we being a part
Uh-huh.
of that whole consciousness, the universe or the
Uh-huh.
world, the galaxy, the kainat?
Uh-huh.
Maybe we are a part of that with a special feature like a pixel on your LED screen. Uh,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm up for that. Yeah.
So obviously there have been philosophers who have thought about
Mm-hmm.
life and the intricate play
Mm-hmm.
uh, of divinity, or our role in it. Again, various theologies, various cultures have discussed it at length, and we see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Our own culture is deeply ingrained in, like the
Yeah,
Sufi
yeah.
culture,
Right.
what is it? I mean, if you go through the Kashmiri literature
Uh-huh.
of the great sages who've been
Uh-huh.
here, uh, honestly, I have not come across more deep literature than that.
It's
In
it's
in,
very
in those
deep. Yeah.
poetic verses,
Mm-hmm.
there's a universe in
True.
itself,
True.
right? So from that context, it should help you shape up your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, if you go further in it, then then you will not participate in
In
the
the
worldly
affairs of the
affairs.
world. Yeah. But I want to understand, Ishwak, by then, what does it mean to live a complete life? If you were given this, if you had to frame, if you had to tell me how do I live a complete life? Okay, let's call it a holistic life. How do I do that?
Well, I don't have all the answers, to be honest with you, Farad, but this is a subject of interest,
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and we have kind of touched the topic. It's right now on my front burner,
Yeah.
although I'm not able
And
to
I
spend a
think I
lot.
led you to this question because of that, because I really want you to talk about melting pots and what are you doing there and
so
holistic life and all that.
so
Yeah.
so we find ourselves isolated at times,
Hmm.
whether we in a marriage, whether we in a partnership, whether we in a family. Sometimes we feel misunderstood, or
Hmm.
we feel dejected,
Hmm.
and it's very common, and
Hmm.
especially in the world where uh, but the inspirations are kind of skewed.
Mhm.
What inspires you really? I mean, this is a question. If you go in other cultures, sometimes it's a celebrity, sometimes it's a
Yeah.
leadership. But the point is today with social media playing a very important role in
Mhm.
everybody's life because
It's shaping us.
exactly. So it has COVID kind of during the period of COVID, this 3-4 years, most people went through introspection. A lot
Mhm.
of people left their jobs. A lot of people
Mhm.
had this huge, U-turns in
Mhm.
life, or just took a different path.
Mhm.
And some of them are coming back and saying, "Okay,
Right.
I went a little while. I want to, I want to sober down."
Right, right.
But it also helped. Helped a lot of people introspect differently.
Mhm.
Uh, I know of many incidents where communication was more deeper, more intimate, where people came together and found a common ground.
Right.
Uh, so in that context, I personally went on a journey on exploring uh, what it means to have a calling,
Mhm.
and in context of Kashmir, where I spent a lot more time and interacting with the people here
Mhm.
of all ages, and there was a peculiar problem that I noticed where there was no free space for exploring their callings,
Mhm.
no hobby
Right.
groups because of the circumstances
Mhm.
really that we've had here. And that led us to melting pots,
Okay.
and we are trying to find many answers, and we are
Okay.
trying to use tools that are relevant today or will
Mhm.
be in the near future,
Uh-huh.
that we will use a gamified life.
Yeah. Now that is the futurist talking.
I mean, it's a concept right now, but
Uh-huh.
I personally feel it's very powerful
Mhm.
because there is critical thinking,
Right.
there is collective
Uh-huh.
thinking, there is vetting ideas.
Uh-huh.
It's even beyond. I mean, most of the concepts that we have today
Uh-huh.
was shaped somewhere in the late 18th, early 19th
Uh-huh.
century, and we are living them. And times have really changed,
True.
and we have not. I mean, there are startups who are working on small pieces,
Mhm.
small solutions, even big
Right.
problems.
Right.
But what about life that we are
Mhm.
living? These critical
True.
thinking. What about these
Uh-huh.
aspirations,
Uh-huh.
worldviews?
Uh-huh.
Just living life, like you're saying, full life. A
Uh-huh.
gamified life could lead you to a good life. How would you even explain a full life, living a full life? How would you even explain it today? Is it to be able to have the financial freedom to buy anything? Will that be a full life?
Uh-huh.
Will
It
it
won't be
be?
obviously. Uh-huh.
Would 2 children make you a full life, or would it be 500 children? I
Uh-huh.
mean, would it be like what would it mean? What would it mean? And I think
Mhm.
again, it's quite personal,
Right.
right? It would be different for
Uh-huh.
you.
Uh-huh.
It would depend on each of us, our context, how
Right.
we should see the world, how
Mhm.
we feel, and what does it mean? Is it like a balloon we blow air and it's full? Now, if you put a little more air,
Uh-huh.
it'll blast. Is that a full life? What is a full life? But I understand it resonates with me. A full life, what everybody's been talking about, a happy life, a
Right.
content life,
Right.
not necessarily going in the consumer way where
Uh-huh. It's all about
where it's
having a lot of things.
yeah, it's not
Right.
it's not necessarily having
Mm.
everything,
Mhm.
but a meaningful life where you
Mhm.
feel valued by your
Mhm.
peer group, or where you feel you're contributing as
Mhm.
well. Uh, so we are trying a gamified life, and I think we
I'm really
may have
excited.
some answers. I'm not sure, but it all depends. And it's I feel my job was to put context,
Uh-huh.
but it's a collective effort. I mean, we have a few products I want to talk about.
Uh-huh.
We have a product called the Union of Minds,
Uh-huh.
and where we, through structured conversations,
Mhm.
resolve issues that are on the
Uh-huh.
table. It could be any issue,
Uh-huh.
and we build a consensus that
Okay.
we reflect on the problem,
Mhm.
wearing different lenses,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately find an answer that resonates with all of us,
Right.
right? So it would be a powerful tool, because now we are talking about a thinking tool that's a
Uh-huh.
collective tool
Right.
that collectively gives us an answer.
Uh-huh.
More democratic in that setup,
Right.
but it's more intellectual as well.
Uh-huh.
Uh, then obviously the financial system that we have today.
Mhm.
And we are talking, I mean, the idea right now is to uh, put the concept on the table. It's not
Mhm.
necessary it'll be done in our lifetime. Who knows, we are mortal beings,
Right.
we could be
Right.
done tomorrow. But
Mhm.
what is the contribution? There is a physical contribution, there's a material contribution, there's an
True.
intellectual contribution.
True.
And a part of contributing is to be able to leave a legacy in that
Uh-huh.
direction for
And which
your
also
own.
is a human tendency, more of thinking of it from that perspective. You want to leave a legacy.
Well, there is a conflict there. That I mean, one is to leave a legacy to leave a legacy that inspires others to
Mm-hmm.
that road.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see today, wealth, just leaving wealth is not a legacy. Like for instance, a lot of people go all out. They do not even enjoy their lives. They work 18 hours, 17 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
16 hours a day, and it's all about making that extra buck or making
Uh-huh.
money, and they lose the experience of life itself,
Right.
and sometimes doing jobs that they do not even enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel contributing to it because it
True.
does not resonate with them.
Mm.
It's the end product is that check in the bank or
Mm-hmm.
money at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so that legacy, is that a legacy? If you are even able to build a monument that inspires the
Right.
world, is that a
Right.
legacy?
Right. Yeah. It's not. The conversation that we are having, it'll probably take us a few more podcasts to really understand and really deep dive into it, and inshallah we'll do that in coming times. I want to understand your stint here in Kashmir Business Factory, and then moving it to what happened in 2023. We are on the last day of 2023, but something remarkable happened here in Kashmir. We did this remarkable event, the Launchpad Kashmir event, and you got entrepreneurs from across India, and they discussed their ideas and they discussed what was good for the entrepreneur community here in Kashmir. You have been doing remarkable work in that field. You're more of a pioneer for Kashmiris and the entrepreneurial space. So tell us about it, and how does it all fit into melting pots? How does it all melt into the melting pots?
That's a very deep question you're asking me. But to put it simply, uh, I use a metaphor, uh, if I may. I look at it like making a beautiful garden,
Uh-huh.
and obviously, who will be gratified by having a beautiful garden? It'll be me as a gardener. Like
Obviously.
if I see its
Obviously.
shape, if
Yeah.
there's beautiful flowers,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And while I'm making a beautiful garden, the landscape, there are different species of
Uh-huh.
flowers, and the whole experience.
Mhm.
Now, what would a beautiful garden entail? What
Uh-huh.
concept? What this? So prior to setting up Business Factory, I had the good fortune of working with some of the best minds in the world,
Mhm.
and we were working on a lot of earth science projects,
Mhm.
on decision support systems,
Uh-huh.
big data, critical thinking, for governance tools, and then we had 2010, and uh, it was a difficult period for me. And in Kashmir,
Mhm.
it was a very
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
again, one of those
Dips that
dips
we
that you
have seen.
face.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
seen a lot of
and
them.
yeah. And again, it is something that made me do a detour, reevaluate,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wanted to be back here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those days, I remember I had this whole mind map of what are the problems here and what is required here.
Mm-hmm.
And at the core of that was livelihood was a
Uh-huh.
big problem
Uh-huh.
because we were coming out of it.
True.
Even and smaller issues. It was early days, and I started meeting up young people in
Uh-huh.
cafes and interacting with the youth wherever I could
Uh-huh.
reach out and see what they're doing. And I was fortunate enough to meet some fine young people, maybe just passed out of school or
Uh-huh.
sometimes in school uniform
Oh,
even, and
okay.
and
Okay.
talking about things they aspire, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we needed at that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally felt, because that was a species that would look that made sense for that part of the
Uh-huh.
garden.
True.
And so we ended up, like I said, it was a difficult time. I had this uh, business that I was building in Delhi, and which was connected. And then when I decided to move back, all I had, I saw what we had to offer. It wasn't really much, but it was some space, some legacy, some mentorship, some little bit of cash that would run. So I would. When I would talk to them, there was a simple way to explain it, that we have to gas mircha akhta aspachu wazwan ranun.
Okay.
So so it was very common
Okay.
we use, because that means that we don't have any
we are very
resources,
little. Yeah. Right.
and
There's a lot to do. Yeah.
there were many fine young men, and so for instance, my co-founder in Kashmir Box, Muhit, was there.
Yes.
There was Kashif, who was even part of Kashmir Box earlier, and then into service commerce. Abid was there. There were many young people, and so we started working on setting up the stage for new economy businesses. At that time, e-commerce was there, or even connecting connecting khidmat centers who were rolling out government services. Business services were rolled out. I mean, products were rolled out, looking at the logistics part. And for me, it was like the new leadership, the future leadership,
Right.
and what I could do. And not as I mean, it's how you look at it. For a lot of people, it was investor, but I was looking at it as an elder brother, single. I don't have children.
And you have this vibe, you know. I always tell you, you have this elder brotherly vibe.
I'd rather be the younger brother, so I could be naughty. But yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But that's where it started, right? So we wanted to think big, the whole have a big purpose. All of these businesses were designed to have a huge social impact, and uh, again, this is 2011, I feel, and then we had ups and downs. I mean. Some of the plants did not last. I mean, they just vanished, and for various reasons, circumstances played a very important role. And some shined because they survived, and now they're still doing well. Uh, so that was the business factory. We wanted to create wealth for social impact, the new leadership for
Right.
future, who will shape the future, because otherwise there was nothing really happening.
True. And now, how do you see it?
You were saying melting pots. How does
Yeah.
it connect with melting pots?
Yeah, and then how do you see it moving forward? So, the next 5 years, maybe, or the 10 years, taking out the futurist in you again. So, how do you see it all growing in the next few years?
Well, right. Currently, what has survived uh, in the decades, or what we have built in the recent past, what I'm involved in right now, it's like a culmination of these ideas coming together. On one side, we have marketplaces with D2C businesses, or even brand building. Um, on the other side, we also went and started Kashmir Innovation Lab. So we have a young leadership there as well. Burhan or even Yusuf, they're working on addressing the supply chain, or even new product development, innovation, reaching out to institutes, universities, young students. And then recently, collectively, Launchpad was started, which is again. Which is a mission for new startups, emerging startups.
Right.
So we already have this leadership ready to guide the next generation. And for me, in this whole scenario, I have an opportunity to interact with many young people who are at different
Right.
levels, different places in their journey.
True.
Right? Some have gone ahead, some have gone, some are still behind.
Right.
Sometimes you sit with someone and they don't know what to say because they don't have that exposure.
Understood.
Right? So you see, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I don't want to waste my time, and rightly so, because someone else needs to use their time to take them to some level. uh, that's where melting pots come into play, because the macro view of this whole landscape gives you enough content to resolve that content.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, like I said, life gamified.
Yeah.
So that gamification, your personal aspirations, the collective
Collective
approach,
wisdom. Yeah.
collective approach,
Okay.
having fun in life, being
Uh-huh.
happy, doing things that really are meaningful to you,
Uh-huh.
creating that ecosystem or that environment where you reach out uh, to the people who you resonate with, right? And then we have some interesting play, like when
Okay.
you say gamified, it's a play, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
there are some interesting elements we are ideating right now,
Mhm.
and inshallah we hope that they come into play and I am able to see it on the grand theater
Inshallah, let's hope
of
that,
life.
yeah, the grand theater of life. We started talking to a fourth generation entrepreneur and ended up talking to a gardener. So, so we had a beautiful conversation. So I hope it was meaningful to you and valuable to you. We'll see you again in the next episode. Till then, take care.